Alright, making a video, probably for YouTube. Yeah, I'll put the timer on. Start. Okay. Yeah, so first I guess I'll point to a couple of channels. Yeah. Rocket Ship Whiplash. Some girl. Yeah, she's kind of hot. Young. Anyway, yeah, what the hell? Post a link to that. Ex-Pentecostal crazy religious person. Um, so, she's probably, good stuff because, she couldn't have sex or anything because of the religion. So, yeah. And then Das Spook guy. So that's who I'll basically talk to. I hadn't watched some of his videos in a while. I don't know whether we had a fight or something or disagreement. I remember like a year ago or whatever it was. I don't know. Whatever. Smart guy. So I watched a few of his videos. It's more literate than I am, which is problematic sometimes because vocabulary does get a little bit convoluted. And, we often agree on the, Professor Anton's twisting of interpretation and perception. That is kind of manipulative, kind of religious. Yeah, almost like it's almost like that idea of like you have regular Christianity and then you have the Pentecostals who seem to be so manipulative and so distortive of perception and yeah. I don't even know why that works though. That's a part it is weird. My sister was one of those nutty Pentecostals. She took me to that church, I remember, and I was like, "These people are really, really crazy." She thought she was going to get somewhere, like she was going to convert me. And I was like, "Oh, please." Regular religion's silly enough, but you people are nuts. Anyway, it's all a tragic, horrible story. Anyway, yeah, I got notes, but I'm not too impressed with them about where I'm going with this video, where I'm going at all, entirely. I guess that's sort of where I am. I'm just sort of doing my YouTube overview thing, and where's any of this going? And that's sort of like the thing, you notice that a guy like the Spook, and he's got so few people are watching his videos, and you're saying, how is this possible? I mean, this guy is really smart. And some of his videos don't get 100 views, and you're like, what the fuck? What are we doing here? I mean, who are we talking to? I mean, how dumb can this audience be? Is they can't, it's like even, I was watching a conference report video on the art subject, and, I don't even bother with that subject anymore, because it's just stupid. It's a word from, like, before, like when art was art, like where art was rendering. It was, there was like one musical instrument, and you either painted or you chiseled, and that was it, and that was art. And now it's a whole different ball game and technology, and it's just completely different. So there's no point. There's no point in even trying to see where art begins or ends. A word even applies. So, yeah, I say this. Fuck the word. Fuck the. I mean, yeah, we still got to keep it as a concept, I suppose, but yeah, it's like almost better not even to recognize it. Just recognize the things that aren't art. Like science isn't art, okay? Yeah, so we have let's define the white space, and then we won't have to worry about trying to contain art inside of some sort of thing that we're calling it, because we'll just, if it's not art, yeah, we'll just do the negative. So where was I going with that? Oh yeah, but yeah, I was watching his video, and he's, another conference report, another smart guy, and you're just, and then, I'm just noticing the related videos, 2 million views because somebody drew a face in their coffee, some kind of bullshit, and you're just like, what the fuck? I mean, what are we doing here? What are we talking to human beings for? Fuck it. It's just also stupid. It's like, there was some video that got like 8 or 9 million views. I was seeing the other day some Lady Gaga, some kid doing the thing, and she was young. I mean, but she sucked. I mean, she wasn't that good. It was like 8 million views, and it really wasn't very good. I mean, it wasn't bad for whatever a 7-year-old, but just, I've seen better. And it was just irritating. Like, what the fuck? Anyway. Alright, notes. So anyway, it's this whole idea of analyzing, that's sort of what we're doing, okay? We're analyzing life. That's what philosophy basically is. Just analyze what the fuck is going on here, the system. So it's like, you could call it just system analysis, right? And so when you're doing system analysis, you sort of have to be literate. Literate in the science of it, the physics of it, or the mechanics of it. You have to know some certain rules. And so for the rules for philosophy are kind of like, the rules of logic. You just, you can't be self-contradicting. You can't, and there's just rules of like probability and math, and there is structure to what you're allowed, where you're allowed to go in terms of what's reasonable speculation. And but if you don't do all this math the right way, if you don't put the right values on when you're doing completely pull out of your ass philosophy versus something that's going to have some like evolution versus unicorn theory. I mean, they have to be weighted differently. It has to be understood that one's a completely, there has to be asterisks after things. Some kind of notation that recognizes that this is where we're doing some sort of imagination philosophy and not like real philosophy. And there's no distinctions like that, and it's sort of irritating. Because I'm finding it, I've been arguing with people about this whole idea of the probability of life elsewhere in the universe. And I keep trying to explain to people that, if you're trying to analyze the probability, you can't do it with the information we have. All you can know is the fact that that it's not common, or that it's not easy, or that it's not a regular process from the information we have, just because it's only happened once on planet Earth. And so I'm trying to explain that, like in probability, you can't take a circumstance where you have an unknown number of dice with an unknown number of sides on the dice, okay, and then you go based on one observation, and you say, well, all I see is a 6 and an 8 on the two dice. Let's say the dice can go up to 8. Yeah, you can't draw any conclusion from that, from one roll of this unknown circumstance. You just can't draw any conclusion. So we have one cell, one time, that led to life on Earth. But we have no other information, and we only have one example of it, and that's us. So it's like anybody who wins a lottery is going to feel like, well, that was really easy. I just bought a ticket, and then, like a few days later, they said, you win $1 million. And it's like, I didn't have to work at all. So they're going to think it's easier than it was. That it was more likely, or more, oh, I just knew I was going to win, and I was right. And, of course, that's just full of shit, because they had no, 1 in 64 million. I mean, how can you appreciate the impossibility of 1 in 64 million? You can't do anything 64 million times, not easily. I mean, you can breathe, 64 million times, but it's really hard to do something 64 million times to really appreciate how unlikely it was that you were going to win. So here we sit, we exist, and we might be the product of, preposterously huge numbers in terms of how many times you could take, a certain amount of chemistry, a cupful of primordial soup, whatever, you know what I mean, 4 billion year old ago soup, and you take a cupful of that stuff, and how, and so yeah, how many cupfuls would it take, and how many times do you shake it and throw it out and say, okay, we'll see what we roll, see if we roll human being. We just have no idea of what the kind of numbers, of unlikelihoods of the certain chemistry that did get together to make it possible to have life that reproduces based on a DNA molecule blueprint kind of idea. And that is part of the necessary component. You can't do this, in spite of the fact that it took, billions of years for us to evolve. That was really fast evolution compared to what kind of evolution you would have had if you didn't have a DNA molecule. If you didn't have a blueprint that was doing the changing, evolution would be, preposterously slow. So anyway, where am I going with that? Yeah, so just making the argument that you can't really argue with people if they're going to break the rules, and sort of breaking the rules to say, but there are so many planets in the space that it must have happened more than once, and they say it must have, and you're like, no, must have is a stupid word, because for every extra, for every extra universe you even added to the number of universes, and whatever you added, I could just add another lightning strike to the first cell that reproduced. I could just say, well, instead of lightning striking the same place within 13 seconds 8 times, it had to strike in the same place within 8 seconds 9 times, or whatever. I can just add 1. And for every 1 I add at that improbability to that first event, that perfect storm that led to this evolving life thing, so there's no, it doesn't matter how big the universe is if the number, if the unlikelihood number, improbable number, is preposterously huge to start with. So yeah, how can you have a conversation though when people aren't going to obey the rules? Well, they're just going to say, oh, fuck it, probability math. Yeah, I don't have to pay any attention to that. That doesn't have to confine my speculation and what I feel. I can feel anything I want. I can feel like it must be. So therefore I have to argue with people's feelings. Oh, fuck that. So anyway, that's what we get. So it's all gets very discouraging because you're not really arguing within anything. There's no confinement to any kind of, like, the rules of math. Math has these nice rules that say, okay, if you got an error, you should be able to find it because you broke a rule somewhere. Somewhere a number did something it's not supposed to do. Something changed. You divided when you should have multiplied. There's some sort of structural mistake. And in arguing philosophy, it's so much harder to isolate those mistakes, especially when people are talking philosophy and concepts using metaphors and analogies and personal experience stories, and they're mixing all kinds, like art, all different kinds of things are being thrown in as if they're all the same thing, as if they fit in this category of legitimate argumentation regarding description of reality. So anyway, so the spook guy, in one of his videos, though, he was almost arguing that somehow reality would disappear, if there wasn't some human concept to confine it or describe it, almost as if the concepts are more real than the reality they attempt to describe. And I just didn't know where he was going with that, but I might have just misunderstood what he was saying. But he was almost doing that tree in the forest thing again, and that is so annoying, because that again just seems like such a contrived controversy. Like there's not a question here. Is there really a question here? I mean, trees fall, they create disturbance in the atmosphere, they will vibrate things. I mean, the fact that they if you're going to confine the word sound to meaning, a vibration in the ear, well, that's not going to be the common person's understanding. I mean, they're still going to think of a speaker playing at a rock concert right now. Even if I'm not there, I'm sure the sound is being made. Other ears are receiving it. And it's not the ears that are creating the sound. It's the damn speakers that are creating the sound. Well, anyway, we've already been over that one. So, I'm out of time. Alright, anyway, enough of a video. So anyway, a couple of links, just, good people making videos, good videos and such, so, yeah, just ignore what I said.